There's a genre of YouTube videos out there, and these videos are of people talking about living in their cars. A lot of people found out about this recently because they started appearing in related videos, recommended videos on the side and on the front page of YouTube. And the one that got my attention was from somebody who calls herself Hobo Alley. That's the name of her YouTube channel. And I saw somebody make a video about this, why is this hot girl living in her car? And yeah, she's a nice, cute girl talking about how cool it is to live in her car, how she's so free and how she works 2 jobs and goes to school. And she's not the only one. There are an insane amount of people out there vlogging about living in their cars. Now think about the last 8 years. We'll just call it the Obama economy because that's what's defined the last 8 years here in America. Something I've noticed is the gentrification of the food truck industry, and I think this has laid the groundwork for people wanting to live in their cars. Hey, if they're willing to eat food prepared in a car, they're just a few heartbeats away from wanting to live in a car. I don't think anybody's thought about the disturbing implications of the gentrification of the food truck industry, because years ago, within my living memory, food trucks were a business that immigrants who spoke barely any English would go into. They'd sell tacos and kebabs and hot dogs out of their truck. There's a nickname for that, Roach Coach. I think that's what it was. But now the stuff white people like set, the middle-class urbanite set with a good sense of aesthetics, moved in on the food truck industry. They hired real good graphic designers. They sell gourmet food out of their trucks. They're really heralded on the food blog circuit, and they really give a lot back to their local communities. Support your small business. Look, I don't care if you run a food truck. I'm not talking crap about that. All right, it's a more honest living than a lot of stuff out there, but that's where a lot of these people come from. They come from dishonest livings that they can't sustain anymore because they get out-muscled by H1B1 recipients. All right, China and India, they're actually producing talented people now. What do we produce? We produce people with good taste in movies and television and music. The people living in their cars. People cooking food in cars. These are signs of our impending obsolescence. But if you could get a nice, cute girl to make videos about how cool it is to live in your car, you can normalize it. You can convince people that it's a hallmark of freedom. It's a real cool, attractive, quirky, interesting way of being. My friend brought this up to me. Ronald McFunkytown, who joined me on an episode of Common Filth Extra not too long ago. And there are some people who think they're just faking it. These people who say, "Oh, I live in my car," they're just faking it. They might sleep in their car for a couple nights and then go back to their parents' house, whatever. Even if that's the case, I think that's secondary to the issue at hand here. Okay, so cute girls are pretending to live in their cars. This is conditioning. Convincing people that living like a destitute meth addict, or just destitute in general, is charming and quirky and totally your choice. But it's not. How this seems to me, just a gut feeling, putting it out there, whatever it's worth, here it is. The trend of video blogs done from cars about living in a car is connected with the push to digitize all of humanity. Get people used to living in more and more confined spaces, doing everyday basic things in confined spaces. You normalize this, you condition people to think like, yeah, this is okay, this is cool. And you'll eventually convince them to donate their bodies to the digital database. And go figure that the first people to deal with this on a mass media consumer level were the Wachowskis, who directed The Matrix. 2 guys who suffer from transgender delusions. The population of males who think that they should actually be females, that they're born in the wrong body somehow, is growing at the same time the demand for the digitization of everything is expanding. The coalescence of all these factors I'm talking about here It's not coincidental. I mean, you can think that, but you're thinking that at your own peril. This also pertains to the topic at hand from relevantmagazine.com, which I think I've read from before. Some stupid article about Christian feminism. So yeah, this is some douche church, bro Christ nonsense. But this is what it says. Mark Zuckerberg says he's no longer an atheist, calls religion very important. This weekend, Mark Zuckerberg posted a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah message from his family to his followers on Facebook, and in the comment sections addressed a question about his personal faith. After he posted the comment, a user asked, "But aren't you atheist?" And Zuckerberg replied, "No, I was raised Jewish, and then I went through a period where I questioned things, but now I believe religion is very important." When a user asked, "But why Facebook doesn't notify that Jesus' birthday is today?" Zuckerberg joked, "You're not friends with Jesus on Facebook," adding a smiley emoji with a halo. As the friendly atheist blog notes on his own Facebook profile, Zuckerberg used to self-identify as an atheist. He later removed the religious preference field from his own About Me section. Earlier this year, Zuckerberg and his wife met with Pope Francis. Time's up, Bergoglio. Time's up. To discuss ways that technology could help the poor, and told him how much we admire his message of mercy and tenderness, and how he's found new ways to communicate with people of every faith around the world. Adding, "It was a meeting we'll never forget. You could feel his warmth and kindness and how deeply he cares about helping people." This is telling, because the only way you could be of a mind to pursue what Mark Zuckerberg is pursuing is to have autotheistic delusions about yourself. He wants to digitize all of humanity. He wants to put everybody into a flesh bank. He would love to give the world eternal life. He just lacks the means to do so at this point in time, but he's laying the foundation. No question about that. You really want to be held captive for all of eternity by a malevolent AI. Is that what you want? Because that's what you're going to get if we continue on this path that we're on. And it's interesting that Zuckerberg has softened his stance on religion after meeting with Bergoglio. Bergoglio, who is douche church incarnate, who ignores the parts of the Bible about God's wrath because those parts offend pantheistic cat ladies. And yeah, that's what you really want in your congregation. People who think that, oh, it doesn't matter which path you take as long as blank, some arbitrary qualifier that somehow makes you a good person. Mark Zuckerberg and Bergoglio too think that, oh, you could talk about your religion just as long as you leave out the icky homophobic parts of it, because you still can't say a negative word about that particular demographic on his platform. You can't do it. So religion is very important, but you gotta leave parts of it out because that's not good for the bottom line. All right, the parts of religion that you can't repurpose into a consumer good, that's no good. That's homophobic. You got to go to Facebook jail. The douche church set might not be able to see your real intentions, but I do. I see right through you, Zuckerberg. I do. Now, we're about to get real coast to coast AM here on Common Filth Radio, if you're familiar with that radio program. We're going to talk about a theory on who, or rather, what the antichrist will be. All right, so this is also brought to my attention. I'm just going to read this. I'm going to read it through, and look, I don't know how I feel about this. This is a pretty new idea to me, and it's something that I think I should get out there because there's a lot of overlap here with what's being said here and with what I talk about. The digitization of everything, especially humanity, that's what disturbs me the most. And it's something that's been on my mind a lot lately. And I think it's terrifying. So, here's some perspective. It says, what I really think. This is what I think about all this new shit happening on planet Earth. And this is from March of 2016. No messing around, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, who will forgive whoever places their trust in him. Jesus said in John 12:47, if anyone hears my words and does not listen to them, I do not judge them, for I have not come to judge the world, but to save the world. There has been questions asked about the latest artificial intelligence and whether it will be good or bad. The Bible clearly answers the question. And although you have to use your imagination a bit, remember these words were written almost 2,000 years ago. So the Apostle John had to use his imagination to explain the visions he saw. I'm not a biblical scholar or anything like that, but I have read the entire Bible many times. I generally do not read other people's interpretations of the Bible and scriptures. Revelation is written for and about our modern time, and has nothing to do with any old rulers or Caesars or anything like that. This is a very simple and short analysis. I'm sure I could expound upon each item, but this is the basis of any interpretation I have about chapter 13. The translation into English is what it was meant to be when it was written because the prophecies apply to events that are happening right now. Granted, it was composed in Greek, but designed to be translated into modern 20th century English as used in the modern world, and translated from that into many other languages as it is nowadays. Revelation chapter 13. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. Here we see the dragon on the shore of the sea. The most prominent thing about the shore of the sea is sand. Sand is primarily silica or silicon dioxide. We know that computer chips are composed mainly of silicon. The beast coming out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads. The 10 horns represent the base 10 counting system we use today, 0 through 9. The 7 heads represent the 7 fundamental mathematic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and the unaries, and, or, not, or negate. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power, and his throne great authority. Here's the dragon being the collective government organizations on the planet. The dragon is giving power to the computers to do the work of the government, which could not be performed today without the help of modern computing facilities. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. The fatal could be a slash across the wounded head, much like the slash through the numeral 0. Mine has a dot like a puncture wound. The whole world is amazed at the usefulness of number systems, money, and statics like politics, and use them every day. People worship the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they also worshiped the beast and asked, "Who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it?" People are beholden to their government system because of the numbering systems and the use of computers to keep track of the numbers. Who can wage war against numbering systems and computers? The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. It is common knowledge today that computers can speak almost as fluently as humans, and in some cases better. And soon these computers will be able to speak on their own due to the development of artificial intelligence. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. It was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Soon we could see that as more and more remote weapons of war are being deployed and developed, more and more of them cannot be used without the supervision of a computer. These could soon fall out of human control. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. There are computers already in existence that could easily track every movement of all humans on the planet right now. Whoever has ears, let them hear. This verse. It needs no interpretation. Again, this is all from Revelation 13. It says, verse 10, if anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. This is the call from verse 9, a warning for the faithful who refuse to worship the computers. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. This is another reference to the binary numbering system. Speaking in binary would sound like a dragon. Off-on sound, very rough with no smooth transition between sounds. It is a lamb because everyone now thinks that computers are harmless and gentle for them. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. Computers work with binary numbering, converted to the base 10 numbering that we use in our everyday lives. The fatal wound that was healed is the numeral 0 that is healed, since it is used all the time in binary notation. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in the full view of the people. Where would outer space exploration be without computers now? They are an integral part of the spacecraft. This passage could refer to the re-entry of spacecraft into our atmosphere, or it could refer to the remote weapons we will soon lose control of, some of which are rocket engine powered. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. This image is not a physical statue. It is a process where all the humans are individually identified and tagged to be beholden to the computers that will track them. Verse 15, the second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. The world governments are now beholden to the computers that are now beginning to have control, since the leaders of the world governments will not be able to act without evidence based on the statistics gathered from the computer tallies and surveillance. Now, here's this interpretation. It's from a YouTube channel called iBlueBayou, who has a video titled The Artificially Intelligent Antichrist. And this individual here says in a comment that I'd like to read first. The video's done in the form of a PowerPoint presentation, so actually probably going to read from that after I read this. iBlueBayou says, it has always been assumed that the Antichrist would be a man because anything else wouldn't make sense to someone living prior to the dawn of AI. That's why the identity of the Antichrist/beast has remained a mystery for so long. Nevertheless, just as Jesus was both fully man and fully God, the Antichrist will be both fully man and fully machine created by us, yet fully connected to the beast who Revelation says brings him/it to life. Many atheists, like noted futurist Ray Kurzweil, are doing everything in their power to live forever, either by uploading their consciousness into a computer or biological enhancements. I believe the beast will promise immortality to the masses by taking the mark, which will collect your data throughout your life for the purpose of translating you into a virtual heaven. Christians will see this as a counterfeit substitute. Non-believers will see this as a fulfillment of what Christians hope for but refuse to accept, and will be hated for not doing so. So, iBlueBayou quotes from Revelation 13:14, New King James Version, and he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do so in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. Definition of an image: a reproduction of the form of a person or object, especially a sculptured likeness. An idol or representation of a deity. An exact copy of data in a computer file transferred to another medium. Revelation 13:15. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And then in Genesis, parallel to Genesis, then God said, "Let us make man in our image," Genesis 1:26, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. And then we have the worshipping of images in the Old Testament. The craftsman stretches out his rule. He marks one out with chalk. He fashions it with a plane. He marks it out with a compass and makes it like the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man. Isaiah 44:13. Indeed, he makes a god and worships it. He makes it a carved image and falls down to it. Isaiah 44:15. And the rest of it he makes into a god, his carved image. He falls down before it and worships it and prays to it and says, "Deliver me, for you are my God." They do not know nor understand, for he has shut their eyes so they cannot see, and their hearts so they cannot understand. Isaiah 44:17-18. Current images, they're showing pictures of androids. So this person here thinks that the Antichrist is an android, which would make sense given that the Antichrist is prophesied to have a withered arm and a head wound that it survives from, and an android could survive from that. But I don't think we've traversed the uncanny valley yet. But I think if we do, we're in some trouble, should these interpretations prove to be correct. And I'll remember to link to this video below. I'll remember to do that so you can check it out. So the order of events, and this is all, you could just watch it. It's a PowerPoint presentation with some audio, but I'm just reading off of the slides here. The order of events. God creates man. Man becomes intelligent. Man rebels against God. Man creates machine. Machine becomes intelligent. machine rebels against man. There are a lot of parallels to be drawn here. What is the meaning of 666? Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Revelation 13:18, King James Version. 3 clues to the riddle. Count 666, Revelations 13:18. 666 is a sum of money, 1 Kings 10:14. And then number 3, use gematria, mispar ha-kadmi. Ha-kadmi, I'm sorry if I'm butchering any of that. Accounting sum. One of the 9 principal methods used by Jewish scribes, teachers, and mystics to discover hidden or secret meanings. And then it shows that 666 equals a binary. It equals a binary. Why is this significant? We're actually using the instructions and context of 666 in the Bible with a well-known method of gematria to find its meaning. Only the number 6, including any repetition of 6s, yield a binary sequence. No other number has this property. Binary code is the language of computers. 666 and money. The weight of gold that Solomon received yearly was 666 talents. 1 Kings 10:14, 2 Chronicles 9:13. He, the image, causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell, except one who has the mark. Revelation 13:16, 17. The evolution of money goes from things, gold, wheat, cows, etc., to coins, to paper currency, to electronic currency, to a one-world cashless identification. A chip, the logical solution. All transactions done through the swipe of a hand. Impossible to lose, reducing theft. Medical records all contained. Fully programmable as a key. Location device. Prevent and help in child abduction. Lost items, pets, etc. That's how they'll sell it to us. Look, and people are getting that lazy. People won't even drive their own cars anymore. They don't want to drive their own cars. They want self-driving cars. So if they're that lazy to not just focus for a limited period of time on driving, on steering, braking, pushing that gas pedal, the car has saved so many people so much time, made things so much more efficient, yet it's not efficient enough. So people will become that lazy. They will. They'll be so lazy that they can't pull out their wallet, that they don't want to. They just want to stick their hand under something and be on their way. Well, look what's happening with the Amazon store. There's an Amazon grocery store, I think in Seattle, where you don't even have to check out. You walk in, you put stuff in your basket, you walk out, and it's already paid for automatically. And back in 2004, they read a headline from MSNBC.com, October 13th, 2004, from the Associated Press. FDA approves computer chip for humans. Devices could help doctors with stored medical information. In summation, 666 is representative of the beast, the antichrist, and the mark. Are all 3 computer-based. The mark may very well be an implantable chip that is slowly accepted by societies until finally mandated under a one-world government by the antichrist. Anyone who does not accept the mark or become infused into the global network will face capital punishment. And then we have part 4, Rise of the Beast. And, alright, brief overview of the internet. Began as a military project with DARPA in 1958 to ensure communications and technological supremacy. Now a rapidly spreading worldwide network connecting more than 1 billion people, and this presentation was done in 2008. These statistics are from June 30, 2008. And so it's grown since then, but the principles remain the same. Has completely revolutionized society, considered one of the most significant and world-changing inventions ever created. Though decentralized and largely non-governed, U.S. currently exerts greatest control and influence. Well, the U.S. recently handed over control of the internet, so that no longer applies. But the fact that it is no longer in American hands does lay some pretty interesting groundwork, doesn't it? The current state of the internet leaves many vulnerabilities to the informational, financial, and electronic security of local and national governments. Public and private sectors needs to be redesigned. So and then you see Wired, an article from Wired, hackers take down the most wired country in Europe from August 2007. Cyber warfare, just the beginning. In 2003, NASA and Sandia Laboratories are hacked by the Chinese. April 27th, 2007, around 1 million interconnected computers in the form of a worldwide botnet take down the Estonian government, the most wired country in Europe that Wired was referring to back in 2007. November 2007, the Naval War College's network is hacked. June 2008, government employees' computers are hacked. By direct order of President Bush and Congress, DARPA is attempting to develop a purely impenetrable and adaptive cyber defense system. In reference to the Antichrist, it says in Daniel 11:38 that he will be an atheist but serve a god of fortresses. Could this mean an intelligence of impenetrable defenses? And remember, this ties in with what Revelation 13:4 said. It said that they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" It's not something you can defeat through conventional means of warfare. A god of fortresses. What is the most likely outcome? Provide the internet with an immune system, a self-automated intelligent network, vastly more efficient than human-based governance. Will promote net neutrality, prevent spread of botnets, viruses, etc. Internet already contains complex networking structures similar to the brain. All it needs now is the capacity to learn and think. The Dartmouth proposal. Every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. The internet is a silent revolution of artificial intelligence, a worldwide computational neural network, a global synthesis of the two models, a global brain. The internet serves as the perfect knowledge base for artificial intelligence. And DARPA, Information Awareness Office. Current mission of DARPA is to achieve total information awareness via networked systems. Will it achieve this through the successful development of an artificially intelligent system? What does the Bible say about the beast? Terrifying, frightening, and very powerful, Daniel 7:7, said repeatedly to be different from all other kingdoms and rulers that came before it, a unique type of ruling power, Daniel 7:7, 19:23. Unable to be defeated, Revelation 13:4 again, has the power to give life to a non-living image, i.e. Android, Revelation 13:15, and attempts to control the entire world economy in Revelation 13:16. In summation, the internet, soon to be grid, is the optimum platform from which an artificially intelligent system will evolve. It will become extremely efficient and useful as a governing power, slowly replacing human decision-making until exerting a major influence in world events. In order to gain complete control of human affairs, it will mandate through the Antichrist, taking the mark, whoever resists will face capital punishment. Babylon the Great, Old Testament, will be the most powerful nation during the end times, composed of a land divided by rivers. And these bits of information come from the book of Isaiah. Will be the most powerful nation during the end times, Isaiah 13. Composed of a land divided by rivers, Isaiah 18:2. Took in God's people, Isaiah 47:6. A nation given to pleasures, Isaiah 47:8. That's something we talk about a lot. That describes most of the West. Plagued by religious confusion, 47:12. Also refers to the West. Ruled by many councils, i.e. a republic, 47:13. Said to be a fattened young cow grown fat as a heifer, Jeremiah 50:11. Is the hammer of the whole earth, Jeremiah 50:23. A mixture of many races, Jeremiah 50:37. Was a golden cup in the Lord's hand, Jeremiah 51:7. Dwells by many waters, abundant in treasures, Jeremiah 51:13. Now we go to the New Testament, Mystery Babylon the Great. Said to be a great harlot, i.e. spiritually unfaithful and seductive, Revelation 17:1. Rides upon the beast, i.e. is carried by and has influence upon it, Revelation 17:3. Becomes intoxicated by the killing of many believers, Revelation 17:6. Hated by many rulers of the world, Revelation 17:16. The great city which reigns over the kings of the earth, Revelation 17:18. All nations that trade with her grow rich, Revelation 18:3, enjoys unparalleled luxury, the highest standard of living, Revelation 18:7, will be completely destroyed and fall in 1 hour, Revelation 18:8. A large importer of many goods, Revelation 18:11 through 12. Babylon's merchants said to be the great men of the earth, Revelation 18:23. The next part. First the dollar, then the mark. America helping to create a one-world economy. All major commodities priced in dollars. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency. How many letters in each word of the United States dollar? United 6, States 6, dollar 6. I know that seems kind of far-fetched. You didn't need to put that in. You could have just said that America's a great Satan and just left it at that because, well, it is, and unrepentantly so. In summation, Mystery Babylon is a remanifestation of the powerful nation Empire Babylon, historically located in present-day Iraq and also used as a base of operations by the US during the Iraq War. It is not described as being a religious power or institution, but as a nation that has enormous economic power and appeal. America is very similar to ancient Babylon on many levels. Just as Mystery Babylon is said to be carried by the beast, so too is America's reign being held up by the current technological banking system from which a centralized artificially intelligent entity will govern and one day replace the United States. Concluding thoughts. The Bible is full of prophetic warnings. Read it for yourself to see if these things are true. Prophetic themes repeat throughout history, reaching their full development and climax at some future point. This is referred to as progressive fulfillment. Technology and society still have a way to go before these things are possible. However, we are rapidly accelerating towards these events. Now, you might disagree with the conclusions, but the facts of the matter, we are rapidly accelerating towards these events. That's not opinion. You could observe that easily. Now, whether these events lead us to full-blown apocalypse end times, or they subjugate humanity in a more minor way, only time can tell. Time, while we're on the subject, has proven me to be correct. Because a long time ago, I said that the acceptance and proliferation of gay rights and the normalization of homosexual behavior in society will lead to pederast acceptance. This has been a very popular request for me to do in the last couple of days here, in the last day, rather, because this is published January 2nd, 2017. Now, brace yourself here. Cracked.com, written by an anonymous contributor. 5 things I learned from being addicted to child porn. And you can find this on the archive.is at archive.is/ lowercase uds, uppercase h, lowercase s. It's no secret that homosexuality, gay rights go hand in hand with pederasty. After all, the fundament of the gay rights movement, its charter, called for the abolition of age of consent laws. And that's the part of that manifesto, that charter, which formed my very correct assessment on the matter. All right, that's all they want. They want access to your children. Why else would they want to be Boy Scout leaders? Think of the inverse. Would you feel comfortable with a grown-ass man taking a bunch of 13-year-old girls by himself alone in the woods? Like, don't be that stupid. But there are people stupid enough to believe that homosexuals who take an interest in classic traditional European culture aren't just using white people because white people are the only ones who are stupid enough to keep their age of consent laws so low and stupid enough to let their children be alone with these people. That's the whole reason why. And nobody wants to say that. They think, oh, they're based homos. They're help us. No, they're helping themselves. They don't give a fuck about your culture. The only thing they give a fuck about is keeping you oblivious to what they really want. Which is, well, something similar to what's featured on Cracked.com here. The anonymous contributor who learned 5 things from being addicted to child porn. The contributor says the difference between pedophilia and child molestation is a conversation that absolutely nobody wants to have. It's depressing enough to contemplate people being sexually attracted to children without getting into which model of windowless van they prefer. But they say knowledge is power, so let's power up. A pedophile is someone who's attracted to prepubescent children, while a child molester is someone who sexually abuses them. Although not every pedophile will molest a child, most of them look at child pornography, which obviously hurts the children forced to participate in it. Unfortunately, demand is high. To understand this problem better, we reached out to one of the consumers. We spoke to Charlie, who's been arrested twice for possession of child pornography. He's not looking for sympathy or trying to play the victim. He told us, "No, you are. You're giving him a voice. You're learning his perspective instead of just locking him up or castrating him." Everybody involved in the process of creating this article needs to have a millstone hung around their neck. He says, I was 12 years old when I first looked at child pornography, Charlie explains. At first, it was adult pornography. Shortly after I started looking at more and more porn, it kind of fell into a black hole in the internet, which eventually led to taboo porn, BDSM domination, etc., which led to incest porn. Finally, while clicking around the many sites dedicated to incest porn, I found a link to a chat room. I was a kid in a chat room with a bunch of adults. I did not try to hide my age on there either. Occasionally, the users would post child porn and no one would make a big deal about it until they found out they actually had an actual child in their midst. Oh, they freaked out, but not in the way you'd hope. Charlie received many messages in that chat room, often accompanied by pornographic images of kids. These pictures were of kids my age, Charlie told us. There wasn't anything wrong with me looking at this stuff, right? And that's exactly what the people in the chat would assure me of. They'd say things like, it's normal to look at these pictures. A lot of people do. They just don't talk about it. This is grooming, befriending a child and teaching them about sex like you're simply a pal and educator, right up until you demonstrate it to them in person. Doesn't that sound awfully familiar to what a certain Breitbart employee experienced? Or maybe, I don't know, I won't go there, but you know. For consuming child pornography can be like an addiction. While reading the confessions of professed pedophiles, which is not a fun hobby we would recommend, you start to notice that many of them talk about addiction. One anonymous pedophile said, I'm attracted to boys between 7 and 12. I'm addicted to porn, videos, photos, and drawings. I often want to say stop. I erase everything I have on my computer. I go to dating sites. I try to be normal, but it never lasts. I crack again. I re-download and spend sometimes the whole night looking at this porn files on my PC. Charlie says, when I was 15, I moved from Florida to Washington. It was here when I would say that I got addicted to child porn. Many forms of addiction apparently develop much in the same way as grief. They stem from loneliness and isolation and involve a lot of bargaining, anger, and depression. This is exactly how it went for Charlie. I knew no one in Washington. On top of all the normal teenage hormones and angst, I had no friends. I ended up spending all day on the computer. I isolated myself. I spent probably 7 hours a day looking at porn at the peak of my addiction. So like any other 15-year-old with an internet connection, but in Charlie's case, he was watching child porn. But then Charlie was considerably older than the kids in his pornography of choice, which made it harder for him to justify watching it. That's when he entered the bargaining stage. He said, I set deadlines for myself. One was when I have sex, then I'll stop. Like if I had sex with a girl my age and I'd magically be cured of this addiction, then of course I'd entered into a sexual relationship with a girl my age and I still didn't stop. Then it became when I turned 18, I would stop. This never happened, obviously. Eventually, Charlie started hating himself so much he literally could not look at himself in the mirror. Or he said, literally could not look at myself in the mirror. I was disgusted with myself because I knew that what I was doing was wrong. And yet he couldn't stop. Yes, which is why you need to stop these people on their behalf. This is why you need to castrate them. Or put them in jail. Or whatever, lock them up, get them away from society. It's that simple. Yeah, once you say that, well, you know, we got to try to it's not, you got to lock them up. You got to get them away from people. You have to get them away from people. You must remove these predators away from those they could potentially harm. Continuing with the article, it says, yet he couldn't stop. Remember, calling child porn an addiction doesn't justify it. It only helps us understand the problem better, and it may even help us find a way to stop non-offending pedophiles from ditching that vital prefix. They're all offending. Like you said, at the beginning of the article here, this article, whoever wrote it, says although not every pedophile will molest a child, most of them look at child pornography, which obviously hurts the children forced to participate in it. Well, even that attitude is going away. Because of our society's cavalier attitude towards sex. They think it's just fun, and it's just like a bowel movement. It's no more impactful than a bowel movement. Our culture's cavalier attitude towards sex says, well, as long as you consent, then everything's magically fine. Okay, so people have this mindset that consent makes everything fine. But they don't consent to the psychological impacts of what they do to themselves, so they cry rape, shave the sides of their head, dye their hair weird colors, this is in the case of women, and they'll claim, oh, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. They live in denial. They live in denial of what they've done to themselves, and they have no idea why they are the way they are because of this denial. They feel the effects of the sexual impropriety by which they've lived, and their basket cases as a result. And they'll say, oh, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. And that's what everybody says. No big deal. No big deal. No big deal that you sleep around. No big deal. Becomes, oh, it's no big deal if you love, the Anglo definition of love. You know what that is. They say it's no big deal if you love on the same sex. You commit abominations with the same sex. And that is now becoming this. It's no big deal that kids express their sexuality. This is where we are headed. This is undeniable. What your culture believes is what your culture teaches. And our culture believes that everything's equal, no matter how disgusting, vile, and abominable what you do is, as long as you're okay with it, then it's fine. Our culture teaches the younger generation that everything is equal. That every behavior is equal if everybody agrees to it. And it should not be a shock to anybody that this is where we've ended up. Normalizing pederasty. Normalizing pedophilia. To addicts, even prison is not a deterrent. That's the part 3 of this article, of the 5 things, whatever. It says, number 3, to addicts, even prison is not a deterrent. There are hundreds of ways to exchange illegal stuff, from carrier pigeons to chat rooms on the dark web. But Charlie didn't use any of them, and that's why he got caught at the age of 19. I was caught trading child pornography that I downloaded off the internet with an undercover police officer on some chat room. That trial went on for about 2 years, and I ended up getting sentenced to 6 months in jail and 10 years probation. Shortly after I got out, I was looking at child porn again. I don't even know how I got caught the second time. Honestly, I was 22. I ended up getting a 2 to 4 year split bid, which means I'd spend 3 years in prison and do 1 year on parole. Being from an upper middle class white family probably helped me avoid longer sentences both times. This is indeed unusual. Child porn sentences are notoriously harsh, despite there being no mandatory minimum for possession of illegal material. Charlie should have gotten at least 5 years the first time, but even that wouldn't have stopped him from watching child porn. It would have paused it for half a decade. See, pedophilia is most likely hardwired in the brain. You can't just scare something like that away. Also, what pop culture tells us, it seems prison isn't that bad for all sex offenders. See, there's that notion again, that tabula rasa derived notion that if it exists, it's valid and it's equal. They say that they cite some study or some article citing some study from the Star asking if pedophilia is a sexual orientation. They say, see, pedophilia is most likely hardwired in the brain. Okay, so they're defective. It's a defect and it needs to be treated as such. But defects are not equal. You're going to tell me that Down syndrome has the same moral gravity as pedophilia? And that's just one example. That's just one example of how not all defects are created equal. It's very easy to identify which defect puts innocent souls at risk. He says, the first time I spent my entire day in protective custody. What that means is that they put you in a jail cell for 23 hours a day and only let you out when everyone else is in their cells. I had trouble sleeping and I spent most of that time just pacing my jail cell, but other than that, nothing. The second time when I got sent upstate, I expected the whole Oz thing to happen, especially since I was a sex offender, but I was able to avoid all that by luck and just keeping my head down. However, please, and that's what he said, we're back to the author here. However, please note that none of this applies to California prisons, which have implemented a strict pedophile conversion program wherein inmates routinely convert sex offenders from alive people to dead people. Charlie avoided that by only by claiming that people in the pictures he downloaded were 16 and 17, which moved me down the target list, he says. And it says that California prisons have implemented a strict pedophile conversion program wherein inmates routinely convert sex offenders from alive people to dead people. Oh, boo-hoo. I'm supposed to be sad when these people get their comeuppance. Oh, I'm supposed to be real sad that, this is a Vice article that says, why are so many sex offenders getting murdered in California prisons? Do I give a fuck? Again, Vice.com. Why are so many sex offenders getting murdered in California prisons? Written by Seth Ferranti. Ferranti surname. Ferranti surname comes from the old French word ferrand, meaning iron gray, and it's thought to have originally been a nickname, so it's French. It's like, lobotomy patients are smarter than this. They're just the same as everybody. Why are they being slaughtered in California prisons? This is injustice. Why should I care if these pieces of shit are having a job done on them in prison? Why? That's God sorting them out as far as I'm concerned. It says, the sex offender registry is bizarre and somewhat arbitrary. Charlie had no hand in making child pornography. He didn't personally know, and we're back to the Cracked article. He didn't personally know the kids and the stuff he watched. What does that have to do with it? What does that have to do with the moral weight of the situation here? Oh, okay, so what? If he was on the first name basis with these kids personally, it would change nothing. Continuing this, however complicated things when the state was determining his sex offender level. It was decided by a number of points he recalls. You would get X amount of points, depending on the age of the victim. The lower it was, the more points you got, and the more points you got, the more trouble you were in. The first time I was designated as a level 2 sex offender, but there were arguments to be made for being a level 1, where I wouldn't be on the registry for the public. The one that pushed me to a level 2 was the fact that I did not know any of the victims in the picture, so I got 20 points instead of 10, because somehow it would have been better if I knew the victims in random pictures I was downloading. No one's ever really come up with an explanation for that one. You're right, regardless of circumstance, you should be on the highest level possible. Not the lowest, the highest. No one is disputing that Charlie is guilty, but level 2 of the sex offender registry is usually reserved for people with multiple offenses and or substance abuse problems that might contribute to them reoffending. That's why Charlie tried to fight these. He does have substance abuse problems. You said it yourself. It's like an addiction. It's like a drug. And he is a multiple time offender. So he qualifies, you moron. We went to trial to try to advocate for a lower level. The prosecution brought in a therapist, stating how I was a danger to the community and how I should be a level 2 versus a level 1. He was also the therapist I was required to see after I got out of jail, which I felt was kind of a breach of the doctor-patient trust right off the bat. Charlie and the doctor never rebuilt that trust, because it's tough to rebuild things when they were never built in the first place. When I started looking at porn again, which led to looking at child pornography again, I never really trusted my therapist enough to tell him I was having problems. That's why Charlie is now a level 3 sex offender, the highest level there is. Although he does say that being on the sex offender registry has in some ways had less effect on my life than you'd think. People don't actively Google sex offenders near me, and therefore the people who actually know about my crimes are few and far between. Number 1, overall, we don't know much about child porn addiction and pedophilia. You don't need to know much. You need to know that it's a dysfunction. It's an affront to all things good. All things decent, all things functional. We don't need to have an elaborate network of reasons and rationalizations as to why we do what we do, how we treat these people the way we treat them. We should treat them a hell of a lot worse, in my opinion. I'm sick of everybody overthinking everything. Because while you're thinking, you aren't reacting. You're not getting anything done. You can't keep scratching your chin and posing in a really thoughtful stance all day. You can't show everybody that you're deep in thought because you're getting nothing done. Why precisely do we need to know more about child porn addiction and pedophilia? Why? So we could better sympathize with their plight? No. No quarter for this garbage. Let's see what you have to say. Reddit.com/r/commonfilth. Question, comment, thread. And I know that there's kind of a quick turnaround here. It's like a day and a half that I left this up. So the next one, I probably won't do one for 124, but I will do one for 125. And that'll go up right after I'm done recording this. So by the time you hear this, it'll be up for the Friday edition of this show, which will be the last day of Common Filth Radio Week. Anyway, this one says, can a former degenerate salvage his life and live a normal Christian traditional life? I'm asking because I had problems with anxiety and depression from a young age, ultimately dropping out of school at age 16. At around 12, I started drinking alcohol to cope with constantly feeling stress and fear, but I stopped drinking at age 16 or so. When I was 18, I started using laughing gas and LSD occasionally. It was fun at first, but it seems in hindsight like it made my problems worse by helping me ignore the bad aspects of my life and not working to improve myself. I'm almost 19 now, and I've decided to never use drugs again except maybe a glass of wine with dinner, and I think I might be ready to become a genuine believer after years of agnosticism. But I don't know if I can be saved or if I should commit suicide. None of my friends use drugs, and I'm a virgin by choice. Well, here are the comments, because this is exactly what I was going to say, the replies you received to this. It says, yes, do not kill yourself, don't throw away God's greatest blessing. Read the Bible and apply and live it, everything will be okay. The next one says, haha, dude, 19 is nothing. And yeah, 19 is nothing. All right, as time goes on, it takes people longer to grow up, and that's no fault of your own. It's just the fact of the circumstance. 19 is nothing. 19 is you're barely getting started. And I know every big deal seems bigger because you have less perspective on the matter. All right, whatever you're going through takes up a greater percentage of your life. But as time goes on, that percentage becomes less and less and less. It has its own half-life if you choose to stop it. Now, you're extending the life of it so it doesn't have a half-life if you don't stop whatever sort of nonsense you're doing. Whatever sort of soul-destroying, life-destroying things you're doing. All right, so if you stop, it might seem bad at the time that it'll never go away, but as time goes on, it will. All right, I hope that makes sense. All right, I don't think I could put it in any better way, but I'll continue reading this one. This comes from actually our friends over at Rome is Burning. 19 is nothing. With time and guidance and God's help, you can get on the right path. Men have turned their lives around in their elderly years. Even the thief crucified alongside Christ was saved in the last moments of his life. Don't despair. And everyone can be saved, and everyone can be saved, and every sin can be forgiven. Heck, the Apostle Paul was murdering Christians before he became an apostle, which is egregious. And what you've written here, what you've documented here about yourself, nothing you've done comes close to that. So it's not too late for you, and you are still very young. Keep it all in perspective, and good luck to you. Hey, CF, this is Rick from Rome is Burning, and I could tell it's going to be a good year for Rome is Burning. I could just feel it. You're an absolute madman for attempting 5 shows in a row. I figured I'd help out and provide one story each day, starting only today, unfortunately. I told you the story off air, yes, and I remember this one, and now everybody gets to hear it, and everybody should hear it. But I'll repeat it for your audience. When I was in college and was still pretty naive when it comes to the gay community, I dated a girl who had a gay best friend. He was your average catty fag who wore Prada sunglasses and talked up liberalism. One day he tells us of his day trip to a seedy adult video store with private viewing booths. This place was located deep in the weird part of the ghetto, and, as he described it, it was full of gay men from Bizarro World. Creepy guys in hoodies, guys who were probably underaged and dressed like glam rock stars. Middle-aged men with sores on their faces, and one twitchy old man. The floor was covered in used condoms, and one corner had needles strewn about. The attendants were either neck-tattooed gangsters or were seemingly old-timers of the store with a 1,000-yard fluoride stare. No, that's the Truvada stare. As he recounted the increasing horror of the place and people, I kept wondering when the part was coming where common sense took hold and he left. It never came. He found, quote, the cleanest guy I could, unquote, and did unspeakable things to him in a booth while some grainy 70s porn filled with people who are probably dead now played in the background. That's when I realized he wasn't telling us a horror story, but putting what he thought was the wacky parts of his personality on display. This was a crazy adventure to him, not a foretaste of hell. It took further exposure to really destroy the glossy, programmed image of the LGBT virus in my mind, but at 22 years old, that was the first big strike, or the big first strike, rather. Good luck and God bless, CF. I'll come with another story tomorrow. First off, thank you for the contribution, because, yeah, that's right in the wheelhouse of what I'm doing here. But this reminds me of another story that I read on another blog, kinocure.blogspot.com. This was posted in December 2013 in an article called, or a blog post that's called Queers Are Dog Lovers. What does it tell us about dog people? Now, the whole blog post is worthy of a read. I'm going to read the end, just something he added on at the end here. He says, for example, one time a group of girl dancers sat down at a table next to mine in Starbucks, and they had a gay BFF with them. The girls began sharing stories about how their housemates had awkwardly walked in on them when they were making out or getting it on with their boyfriend. The queer immediately chimes in as though his story is exactly like theirs, only his experience with it. Instead, he goes through a lengthy description of some dude lying naked on the bed while he hunts around for some lube in the bathroom but can't find any. So he improvises with something I have blocked out of memory. Turns out this stuff burns the bottom's bottom like crazy, and the pair began freaking out like the Two Stooges about how to put out the fire. Then complete silence from the girls, while he laughs along at the conclusion of his own story, totally unaware of how sick and from another world that kind of awkward sex experience is, how totally unlike what all of them had just shared. So moments like the ones documented here and the one documented in your comment show how out of touch with humanity these people are. And they're out of touch with themselves. They have no perspective. They have no perspective as to how filthy they truly are. And when you do confront these people over what they really are, or if you confront those who are allies of this demographic, they'll say, "You're just as bad." What? Oh my God. You can't say that. It's like I have these idiots in my mention saying like, this is in response to the George Michael dying. They're saying, "Oh, this is the only gay people die, right?" They get really defensive when you point out that this guy's lifestyle was directly correlated with this homosexual lifestyle, again, death style, and it all led him to an early grave. And not only that, everything was miserable in his life leading up to that point. George Michael and those of his depraved ilk all die young, with very little exception. And it's not because of bad luck or, oh, that's just sad, something bad happened to him just that one time and it all ended right there. No. They never die under tragic circumstances. It's never just some bad stroke of luck that does them in. It's just adding the dysfunction and depravity upon dysfunction and depravity, and the body starts attacking itself. They have heart attacks, they get cancer, whatever it may be. It all happens for them earlier, and it's all unnecessary. Everything that killed them, they could have avoided. But a huge number of people don't want to hear it, and when you do confront them with this information, they'll deflect it back onto you. They'll say, you're just like them, even though the numbers don't support that assertion. But that's all. You can't say anything bad about them lest you get these responses. These really stupid responses that are born of panic rather than truth. And the truth is, the fundament of the homosexual lifestyle and identity is dysfunctional. It is. Where you direct your ability to give life, in other words, your sexual arousal, where you direct that says everything you need to know. Science, on the behalf of the LGBT mafia, is attempting to make it so that you can create life through other means. But as it stands right now, you need an egg, you need sperm. And it's only that combination that's going to give you life. It's only this combination. This is God's honest truth. And anybody whose attractions are directed in any other way are making God a liar. And God doesn't like being a liar, which is why he invented all of these diseases that humans, for some reason, feel the need to step in and pay for the treatment of. It's just, I don't get it. I don't understand it. You see, it's not the AIDS or HIV. Look, if you get AIDS or HIV, you're a disgusting piece of shit. All right, there's little exception to this rule. And that's really how we should treat it, not as a public health crisis or anything, because, well, it's not you or me who is at risk. Rather, we should view HIV and AIDS as just one of many litmuses. There's Shigella, E. coli, syphilis, all things that should be eradicated by now, but they keep bringing it up, and we have to keep paying for it. We have to keep wasting medical time on medical research and wasting medical resources on curing these people. And you're going to pay for it. Oh, you and I are going to pay for it. See, that's what should bother us. It should bother us that we must bail out the worst people on the planet for the consequences of their mistakes. That's all. That's it. Hey, CF, I bought your discography on sale along with the best of 2016. Seems like the best $12.85 I spent online. And the first thing I spent online at all. Well, I'm honored. Thank you very much for supporting what I do. I'm like PBS over here. It's supported by viewers like you, or in this case, listeners like you. Except I'm way better than PBS. Way better. Anyway, I also realize since you're doing the 5-day thing, you might get less comments in your question comment threads. Keep up the good work, CF, and God bless you. Yeah, to be expected. There's less time in between them, so yeah, not a surprise at all. But it's not a worry because, well, I'm doing a lot of shows this week and plenty of time to get to what you have to say. But thank you again. Thanks for the support, and I hope you stick around. Hey, CF, what are your opinions on climate change and global warming? It's a fraud mostly, but that's not to say we shouldn't help preserve the environment. All right, pollution's not a good thing. We still have to breathe the clean air, but we can achieve that without a racket. We can get there without the nonsense scam that are carbon credits. Earth is home to unprecedented natural beauty, and I think it would be a shame for us to waste that. No question. But environmentalism without conservation is worthless. It turns it into a political scheme where there's just money to be made. There's no actual conservation taking place. You just get Greenpeace and Al Gore and carbon credits. That's what you get without conservation efforts. So I am 100% behind preserving the unprecedented natural beauty the Earth contains. But using the loony left environmentalist to do that, no, you're not gonna preserve anything. You're not gonna conserve anything. Thank you for a lot of great content. I buy every episode of Common Filth Extra and put up your stickers all over my town. Hashtag CF Street Team, my nigga. And I have not forgotten that I have plans to mobilize the CF Street Team properly, but that's not coming up yet, but soon. I'm from Denmark, but is currently living in the Baltics. And today I was reminded how you told us that Denmark is the most adulterous nation on the planet. No, they're the second most adulterous nation. Thailand was number one. Denmark was a close second. And Thailand, strangely enough, was the only non-European nation among the top 10. So, I was reading an article on one of the many state-sponsored news sites in Denmark about a married couple who centered their marriage on going to swinger clubs, where married couples go and have group sex with each other. This filth was so prevalent in their lives that they even invited their friends, quote-unquote friends, from this disgusting club to their family gatherings where, when grandma asked them how they knew each other, they said, "Oh, I fuck the wife and my wife fucks the husband." This is a quote from the article. You gotta link me to that. I don't care if it's like a choppy translation of it, but you gotta send me a link to that. This isn't just one thing because I'd like to read it on the show. This isn't just one thing. Swinger clubs are insanely prevalent in Denmark. Even and especially in the small towns, these Sodom and Gomorrah clubs are found. And of course, every average Dane either thinks this is treasonous, hubs of disease, are oh so brilliant, or just thinks it's a bit weird. But who am I to judge? I don't understand why people fear judgment so much. If you fear judgment, quit doing things that are worthy of judgment. It's that simple. But no, you can't get between a Westerner and their cummies. I used to be proud of being Danish, but Denmark can go to hell. I'm done being loyal to worldly things. Yeah, and I've arrived there in the last, 14 months. And you know what? I'm glad I have. Because the nation, if it is composed of people like this, whose marriages are defined by sexual treachery, then the nation will crumble. It will be nothing. It will be a cultureless wasteland. Or the only thing it produces is death. You know, a lot of people like to say, "Oh, the liberals think America has magical dirt." Well, motherfucker, you believe in magical borders. You think that just because, you have control over your borders and immigration is tight, that you'll somehow have a good nation all of a sudden. No. Because if the people within those arbitrarily defined borders are like this, you're not going to have much of one. And you say you used to be proud of being Danish, but Denmark can go to hell. I'm done being loyal to worldly things. Well, I've heard it said that people who are so proud of their ancestors and talk constantly about what their ancestors accomplished have accomplished nothing themselves. Now that you've reached this point, you could still love your grandpa or your great-grandpa and what they did. You can respect them. That's fine. But honoring and worshiping people that had nothing to do with you, well, that just means that you haven't accomplished anything yourself, now has it? So the fact that you've reached this point is a good thing. And let us all reach that point. Next, howdy Mr. Filth, I can't express how thrilled I was when I found your channel. It is definitely best in the world. I'd really appreciate your insight on this. Sure. My cousin showed signs of faggotry early, such as stealing my makeup when his family would visit, and just being a brat in general. I never saw his parents get after him beyond ineffectively whining about his behavior. In high school, he got caught with the wrong crowd and began stealing from his family. He entered high school as a milquetoast boy, and this fucked up world tainted him so quickly. It seemed like overnight he became an untrustworthy faggot. He is now covered in scratcher tattoos, and he speaks and dresses like a gay Mexican. Viva la raza! He skipped school, and I doubt he'll get a diploma or GED. My heart broke when I found his Facebook page. His profile is full of selfies where he's wearing full-blown makeup. He's obviously drinking in the attention. I have no idea how far down the natural aristocrat hole he's gone. He's 18 and his family seems ready to kick him out because his lying and stealing are out of control. I don't know what depravity he'll resort to in order to survive in the city. He could have had a better life if his parents had just raised him a little better, and I feel like he could still be saved. I'm afraid he will hit rock bottom and stay there clueless until he dies an early death. However, I'm also afraid to reach out to him because he and his friends are dangerous. If it were your family, would you reach out to him, or am I being an idiot? Thank you for reading in your advice. Thank you for all your hard work and speaking truth to power. God bless. So, are you a lady? Because you have makeup? I'm assuming that you are. But in the contingency that you are not a lady, shame. Shame on you. Shame. Shame. And another shame for good measure. It seems like he's sealed himself deep within his echo chamber, and, well, everybody who's there is there, and if anybody threatens to unseal that echo chamber, yeah, they will probably attack you. You will put yourself at risk. How dangerous are they? I don't know. Maybe they'll say mean things about you, and, if you don't want that, fine, don't do it. But people like this, they just seem too far gone. And somebody close to them, they'll rebel against it even further. If somebody close to them, a member of their family or a close friend, says anything to the contrary of what they're doing. And you're right, he is drinking in the attention. And it's because the world loves a pervert. I heard Davis Arini talking about this. He said that the only sin nowadays is hypocrisy. So you can be the most debauched, depraved person possible and be open about it, and people will say, yeah, you're so good. But let's say that debauched, depraved person says, it says to themselves, this isn't going well, this is a wrong way of being, and they stop being like that, they'll get attacked for it. So people have to make the decision, do you want to be a friend of God or a friend of the world? You can't be both. And your cousin here wants to be a friend of the world, because the world loves a deviant. They think that's the best thing you can be. You're being so yourself, more yourself than anybody else, because being yourself is somehow good automatically, unless that, whatever qualifies as yourself is something like this, what I talk about here. Then you're being negative, you're being defeatist, you're being whatever stupid fucking rationalizations these people come up with. So the priority for you here is to keep yourself safe. We've documented plenty of times how truly dangerous these people are, so, you know what, you could live to fight another day, and you will be better off for doing so. And then next, hey CF, what do you think about the prevalence of insult humor in our present-day society? I've noticed that a lot of people who respond positively, wait, I need to lock this thread before any more questions come through. I'll reload it, but, okay, here we go. Prevalence of insult humor in our present-day society. I've noticed that a lot of people who respond positively to edgy insult humor in their cliques. I see it in my workplace all the time. These guys who get into roast wars during their breaks so they can say the absolute worst shit to each other for a good laugh, calling one another a motherfucker, flipping each other off, etc. I thought this kind of behavior was rather juvenile, but I'm seeing people well into their 20s, 30s, and 40s doing this. There's also the hazing aspect of it. You know the kind. Guys calling each other pussies because one couldn't do a keg stand long enough, that kind of shit. I don't have any close friends, much less someone I could call a best friend, but I can't imagine how it would add much substance to the relationship if I constantly called someone a cocksucker and how I'd fuck his mom later. I think a lot of people would say I'm looking too much into it, that it's just banter, but I think anything our society does at this point is worth talking about. There is a distinction between a good-natured jab, let's just call it, and full-on roasting. I understand people are becoming more and more desensitized, so it takes more and more shocking things to get a reaction out of them, to get a laugh. And I heard it once said that men insult each other, but they don't mean it. And women are, they compliment each other, but don't mean it. And that's obviously a gross oversimplification, but there is some truth to it. And yeah, at a certain point, you can cross the line. At a certain threshold, you can cross the line where it's just mean-spirited rather than good-natured teasing. And, it's not a static line. I'm not going to say it's all very situational, whatever, but I understand what you're saying. I understand that a lot of this stuff does seem to cross the line into just being gross and depraved. I'd never call a friend of mine a cocksucker. I don't care how heated the roast session gets. That's That's too much. It's not a good thing to call anybody in any context. So I understand what you're saying. It does cross that threshold of good taste. Anyway, hey, gay Mexican kike. I looked up that Tony T fella, you know, the weird porn rapist guy. Yeah, we read the story about the Brazzers rape scandal, and he's at the center of it. So that's who Tony T is. He's a porn producer, director, whatever. Some guy who works in the porn industry. He's at the center of the scandal. And surprise, surprise, he's also a sodomite. When I looked him up, half the shit I found was disgusting anal predation. In other words, the sodomite is the biggest pervert on planet Earth. Yeah, I didn't look into the guy either, and it's telling that the article didn't mention that Tony T was a sodomite. I assume that everybody who works in the porn industry is a sodomite, but, you know, it'd be nice to know for sure. And whoever wrote that article failed to mention it. They failed to mention his homosexual proclivities. There's a lot of nasty, sick people out there. They're not, you can't even call them people, they're subhumans. But it's what they are. CF, who's the realest nigga? See, this is one of those arguments that's kind of like, oh, who's the most elite quarterback? Who's an elite quarterback? Who cares? You're either good or you're not. You're either real or you're fake. Now, who's more real? Well, that's open to interpretation. That's a little bit subjective. So there are plenty real niggas out there, but who's the realist? No one can really know. Next, salutations from Serbia CF. Been following your work for over 2 years now. Yet this would be my first time writing anything. Well, thank you for listening, sticking with me for this long. That's really cool. Something's on my mind lately that I'm in a dilemma about. There's an opportunity for me to become a tattoo artist. It's a rather well-paid job here, and being your own boss is nice considering the current state of things in my town. On the other side, I would never tattoo myself, and I see this as a very stupid choice somebody could make. Totally agree with what you have referenced in the past. Permanent reminders of temporary feelings. I'm not sure what to do. It's a very well-paid job. It beats a lot of other ones, with some exceptions regarding high positions. Plus, it can serve as a side job combined with something else. People will be wanting to get tattoos, and I'm not sure if I should use their impulses to destroy their skin as a source of profit. Would be like the Jew story relating to pornography. And similar to that, best dealers never consume thing. Nothing will stop them from doing it anyway. If they want to do it, they will do it. What's your outlook on this? Feeling lost here. Have some Serbian kek worship. Oh, jeez. Yeah, keep praising your idiot god of laughter who has no standards about anything, who likes funny things. And look, what's funny today will turn on you tomorrow. Alright, you'll be the butt of the joke at some point. But they don't realize that. They don't. Well, look, this is a lighter form of what you're talking about here, but it's like if a woman cheats, right? And you're the one she cheats with, like she's cheating on some dude with you. Now, you could say, well, she was of a mind to cheat anyway, I'm just benefiting from it. You're still facilitating that betrayal. You're not telling her what's right and what's wrong. And as a tattoo artist, it's obviously not that extreme of a situation. It's not. It doesn't have the same moral gravity as sexual impropriety does. However, it's still leading people on the wrong path. Even if they're of a mind to do it, even if you're not the one facilitating it, you still don't want that on your hands. You still don't want that on your conscience. Now, if you're a tattoo artist, you're probably pretty talented. You have a talented hand, you have a good eye, you could use it for something else. Additionally, something else you have to consider is that you wouldn't tattoo yourself. Every tattoo artist I see is tattooed heavily. All right, I think it's a trust thing. And I don't think the drug dealer comparison works out in this kind of way. Because you're right. The best dealers never consume, but that's respect to drug dealing. Drug dealing and tattoos, again, they're one's of a greater moral gravity, the other of a lesser moral gravity. I don't know anything about tattooing culture, but I can tell you this: I've never seen a tattoo artist without tattoos. So I don't know how I don't know how being a tattoo artist translates into other fields of art, but I have to assume if you can draw on a human skin, you could draw on something else. You can create neat things through another medium. And next, if you could move anywhere in the world without the worries of money or leaving anyone behind, where would you move to? And before Serbia. I like America. I do, despite all my gripes about it. So I'd want to live in a secure location somewhere in rural America. Out of the way, but within driving distance of some stuff. I don't mind driving a little bit. So there's my answer. And if, for foreign nations, Poland and Belize. Those seem all right. But, yeah, that's it. That's it for, let me reload the page here, see if anybody else left a comment. Nope. So I guess we're done here. Again, Common Filth Radio, the best of 2016, available now. Also, Common Filth t-shirts. These things are going fast. If they're not yet sold out by this time this goes up, grab one because they're going really quickly. But, of course, Common Filth Radio, the best of 2016, is available in unlimited supply. That's the joy of digital media. And that'll do it for this edition of Common Filth Radio. I will see you tomorrow.